Happy New Year, everybody. So today it is 1st Jan 2025, and what could be a better start for the year than starting a new project, right? So today we are starting a new project. I mean, I'll be doing the work, and yes, obviously you are more than welcome to contribute. It will be open source from day zero. So let me start with what the motivation for the project is and what the goal is, what we are trying to achieve here. So there's a project called Argo Workflows. This is a cncf project. Argo Workflows is a Kubernetes native workflow engine or workflow orchestrator. You can create a task that run asynchronously in your Kubernetes cluster, and Argo Workflows lets you orchestrate them, or you can do a lot of things with Argo. So there is, I'll show the links and whatnot, and how you can get into Argo workflows. That is there in the next sections of sorts. So today what we are doing is we will be creating a Rust client for Argo workflows. There are a few crates that are available, but they are not really doing a good job. um, this is going to be me trying to implement something which probably or hopefully will be actually used by some of you folks if you're watching this. So this is an end-to-end project that we are trying to build, and hopefully we will be able to finish it. Not today, obviously. It's going to be a month long marathon that we'll have to run. This is going to be a good commitment, and a good opportunity to see how things go from zero to actual being in use. So enough talking. Let's get started. These are less of tutorial or how to do videos, but it is more like a vlog, and maybe yeah, that's it's more or less like a vlog, because I would prefer to record everything that I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and also record or just talk to you out loud, whatever comes to my mind. And let's see how things go down the road for us. Okay, so enough talking. Let's start by sharing my screen. And as usual, I will start with a Chrome window. So let's see, what do we have? I preferred Chrome on this side. So if you look for Argo workflows, Argo workflows, this is the documentation. I have done some research, so you will see a lot of links already handy and visited. So Argo Workflows, it's an open source tool for Kubernetes to run workflows, manage cluster, and do GitOps. Right. There are, if we go to the documentation, where is the documentation? Argo Workflows, learn more. Documentation. Yes. So there are a few client libraries that are already available. They maintain, I think they only maintain Java. There are three client libraries, or not the times in terms of the libraries actually, but there are three languages that are supported as of now: Java, Golang, and Python. Java is, I think, they maintain themselves. Golang also is the core client they have. Python is deprecated, but there is a community maintained client library that is available. Maybe I should zoom in a bit. So there is a Python library available, two of them. So yep, and we'll be writing a community maintained library client for Rust for Argo workflows. Hmm. Um, so there's a website, or there's a place called uh, crates.io. Crates.io is where all the crates, what is a crate? Basically, it's a package or library that is available for the community use, and it's available free, obviously. And most of them are, I think, open source. I don't know if we can have a crate as a private repository and still publish it. I don't know. Maybe something to learn as we go along. Okay. So there are these. This is the place where you can search for different communities, crates or libraries, as you may call it. And if you do a quick search for Argo workflows or Argo workflow for that matter, so there are a few available, and you see they are not maintained. They were last updated a while ago. This one was updated 10 months ago, and I did check this repository. It's not very useful. So it looks like this, but this is, I feel this is, oh wait, Argo workflows models. Okay, is this is maintained, but is this doing the thing that we are trying to solve? I don't think so. No, this is absolutely different. I don't know why it is tagged under Argo workflow, or if by mistake someone linked a wrong repository, I think. Anyways, so I would prefer to have a crate that is easy to use and also obviously serves the purpose. So where do we start? We probably should start by creating a GitHub repository. So I'll go up here, create a new repository. I have done some homework or prior work. So I'll have Notion open onto my the right screen, and I will just copy paste a few things so that they are easy to we can proceed faster. So I would call it Argo flows, just combination of Argo and workflows. Description I keep empty for now, maybe, or we can just push in something that I came up based on like kind of I borrowed it partially from Hira, which is the Python library. Obviously, this is going to be public. Let's add a README, or let's not add a README. I'll create a README as we push some code. Yes, we definitely need git ignore. Let's do a README. Apache 2.0 should be good enough. This will set main as a default branch. Yes, that is exactly what I want. And yes, we are good to create a repository. Feeling a bit of cold. So we now have a GitHub repository set up. If you're watching this and would you like to contribute, yes, you can as we proceed, obviously. And if you like the idea, if you'd like to support me, go ahead and star the repository. It would be really helpful or motivating. In fact, I should set the overall zoom percentage to 125. Awesome. All right, so let's clone this. I can actually clone this with GitHub. Let's go to Argoflows. This is where I usually keep everything that I work on. And obviously, if we want to um, build this, we also need to be able to try Argo workflows as well. But let's do the basics first and see have a feel of what we are trying to build here, and then we will start Argo server. I hope this is visible enough. It's zoomed enough, or the font size is good enough. But if it's not, do let me know in the comment section if you can. And I'll probably zoom a bit more in the next video whenever we record it. All right, so this is going to be our project. This is not initialized to Rust. As you may see, this is just no prior information about Rust as such. So let's initialize our project first. So cargo init, this is going to be a library, and just say dot. Okay. Uh, Cargo check. We have got our project set up. And yep, let's go back and open this. Oh, not main, lib. So in our Rust R series that we are doing, we have seen binaries. We have not seen a library yet. In fact, the difference, so the subtle difference that I can easily cover here is that once you create a library, you get a lib.rs as the main file in your project. But if you do a binary, you actually get a main.rs, because lib.rs is the default where you would how you would structure your library or whatever you're building. So let's continue. We don't need any of this. This is how you write unit tests in Rust projects, but as of now, we don't need that. So I'm gonna just delete everything. And yes, this should do. At the same time, I would prefer to just do a bit of magic here so that it starts to look good. I'll I have an old project, not an old project exactly, but a project that I have worked with, and I would like to use the template that I have there. The project is called Whisk. I'll be doing a series on that as well. Whisk is maybe I should show you Whisk. So Whisk is a minimal WebAssembly runtime that I have written from scratch. It was fun to write it, and I do plan to redo this because this was more of what I was learning about WebAssembly or getting into the internals of WebAssembly. I wrote this as a learning project. I would like to redo this a little better, and just talk about WebAssembly in general on the video. And maybe just like we are doing this one in the current video, we could also record everything when we build this up from the ground up. Okay, so I do have the structure. So this is going to be a div. This is going to be called as Argoflows. Maybe should it be no? Let's keep it small. I like the small case, so this is fine. A minimal, not a minimal. Should I have to type it? Argoflows lets you do. Let's delete it. Argoflows lets you seamlessly integrate and manage Argo. I would like to highlight the word Argo, and then use this here. Work. And then, oops. So I'm trying to highlight Argo and flows so that people are, clear that where the name is coming from. Directly from your Rust applications. And I wonder if I should. Okay. Yes, we also want to add. So this is a link to the build status. As of now, we do not have the build or CI pipeline setup, but we will certainly. So this is going to be, we can reuse it as is, just a few modifications. Um, Workflow risk, and this is going to be Argo flows actions ci.yaml and the build status. We do not have docs as of now, so I'll keep it simply like this. And it should give us a basic. Maybe what we can do is, I usually do this when I'm creating readmes from scratch. Let's copy this and let's go back to our readme here. Maybe edit it and let's take a preview of how it's going to look. Yes, the build status is corrupted because we have not set up the build status yet, which is fine. Argoflows lets you seamlessly integrate and manage Argo workflows directly from your Rust applications. I wonder if I can change this into a link of sorts. So what I want to do is a href and I'm really bad at HTML and CSS, so bear with me. And I would like to link it to Argo workflows. Not the client libraries. Yes. What did I do? Did I not copy this? Let's remove this still here. Okay. I was doing maybe something wrong. Uh, so now this is A, which is anchor, and we are creating an anchor on this, which should look fine. And at the end, we also want to close the anchor. So we should be closing it here, I think. Yeah, this looks fine. Works for me. Let's go back and just copy paste everything. Let's move up. And there we have our README setup. All right. So at the same time, let's also set up the CI, or maybe we could just do it incrementally. Why not just commit everything that we have so far? This is always a good idea. Let's call it init commit. And once we have the basic setup done for our project, I would actually prefer to switch to pull requests so that we have our main in a stable state always, or at least close to stable state, and we only work with pull requests so that if required we can revert it. We have a clear idea what we're changing whenever we are changing. So yes, this looks okay. And now, but once we have the initial commit, let's set up the CI. I have used or try kind of built the CI for Rust in one of our project that I tried with at my office. So I will use the same. And the way you can actually do this is, where it is. We need to create a directory called dot github slash workflows slash. It should give us directory, and then under workflows we will create a file called ci.yaml. This YAML definition is going to be the definition of our pipeline that runs every time we push something. There will be a GitHub actions running for our push or pull request. So let's copy this and put it out here. So I'm calling it CI. This runs on a push to a main branch and also runs on a pull request. The environment is cargo term color always, and then we have linting setup. We also have Clippy, which is for formatting guidelines. We want to compile, and we also want to run test if we have any. I think this is good enough. I actually have one more thing in mind, but let's keep it simple for now. So we have our setup. We have set up successfully our CI. Let's add it and push it. Hub setup CI. Let's see if our CI actually runs. I think it is in a working state now. Yes, awesome. How does it look? It looks something like this, and maybe I should be able to open it in a different window, I think. Compile. Here we go. Yes, awesome. Ah, since we are we are kind of building things from the ground up, I don't think I'll be explaining everything in too much detail. But if there is a portion of it that you'd like me to touch, I can always check up it and come back in the follow video. I can talk about anything that you want me to touch upon. So do let me know. But let's keep going. So we have our Argoflows setup. CI is it just says no status. Okay, maybe there was nothing to build, or is it that the badge is incorrect? How did I get the badge? Copy status badge markdown. This looks right. Okay, I think what I will do is I'll keep it for later. If there is an issue, I can figure it out offline. But that's not the priority as of now. At least we have our project or repository setup done. Okay. At the same time, I'd also like to tag it with certain topics. So this is going to be. I did create a list of the topics that I wanted to tag with. Yes. So it's definitely going to be is it really required? Let's keep it because it's Kubernetes native stuff. Kubernetes, Rust, client, call it SDK. Yeah. Argo and workflows should be enough. Don't have a URL as such, so we are good to go. Anything else from the GitHub? So in case you're wondering what I'm doing, this is a list of things that I had already pre-cooked or sort of researched and jotted down so that we have a clear path what we are trying to do. And that's what I'm looking at on my second screen. Okay, now where do we start actually doing this stuff? So far we have done the basics, and now is the time to actually get going with the actionable thing. Let me jump here. I already cleared the screen. How do you usually start writing a client for a project like Argoflows? Is there is something called Open API spec, or you might be also aware of Swagger. So Open API spec gives you a JSON formatted, detailed information about what the whole system, the API of the whole system, what it is, and we will be using it. And then we will be using Open API generator, Open API, but Open API. I think that's the name. Yeah, Open API generator. I'm getting confused with Open AI and Open API. Funny. So, yep, let's go to Argo workflows. Argo workflows. I think that was it. So, this is Argo workflows. Now, I want to make sure that we are compatible not with the main branch, but with a version of or release version basically. So, I would go to releases and okay, this is the latest release. So, let's go to the tag that has been created. You could also go on a different route, but this is something I prefer. And then under API, they have this Open API spec, which is a swagger.json. We are going to grab this JSON and what we're going to do is we use Open API generator. This is an Open API generator. We will be using Open API generator to build or kind of scaffold the Rust client for Argo workflows. Now, I have tried this before. I can tell you that this, while the process seems like, okay, now we are just ready with the client, but that's not the case. I'll show you what I mean by that. So quickly, let's grab let's go to Argo. This is a repository setup that I have for everything that we want to try. Let's do a curl -lo swagger, and we notice the tag that I'm using is version 3.6.2. Let's start from there. We grab the file, which is now here. And I already have Open API generator installed. You can install it from the GitHub page, I think. Um, there must be some installation guideline that you can use to work with. Um, if you're building, if you're planning to build your own kind of client for something else. Yeah, different options that you can use to install Open API generator. It's Open API, not Open AI. So it's kind of very confusing, very related words. All you need is a P. All right. So open API, and this is the command that you can use. So what we're saying here is, hey, open API generator, generate a client on stubs for me. The input is this swagger.json, which is currently on the same directory that we are in. The language that we want to use is Rust, and the output should be this directory. And with that, we will be able to generate a lot of stuff. And good thank you note. And with that, we have the Argo Workflows RS, which is the generated Open API generated client for Argo Workflows. The only problem is it doesn't work. It doesn't work out of the box. You will need to make a few changes as far as I have experienced. Now, there are a lot of things. The primary thing that I want to focus on why it's not really good to, or not, it's not easy to maintain or use in general, is because when you look under SRC, the APIs this client exposes is very, you know, you can actually use them, but it will be difficult to form the objects by themselves. So it exposes a async based or asynchronous client library, and it has got a lot of things like under local underscore var underscore API key. Everything is prefixed with certain things. That's how Open API generator works. It tries to have a local variable prefix for things that are used locally in a function. This is still okay. If you look at the API clients, they are still okay. But if you look at the models are basically types that this API uses and also exposes at the same time. If you look at the types, these are crazy types, and just look at this. It's asking you to create a bind config, or rather, this is even confusing or maybe unrelated. Let's start with something related to workflow, maybe. Yeah, workflow template. So if you want to create an Argo workflow template, this is the type you have to use. And imagine using these types in your project. This is going to be so difficult to maintain, and that's why I wanted to build something that is not as cumbersome but a little easy to use. That's the motivation, and that's why we will be using this generated client as a reference. I'll put it onto the right of my screen, and we'll be writing one from scratch. So this serves as a great starting point. So move it aside onto the screen, and we can continue with the structure. Now, one thing to note there is that the structure it exposes is not really bad. So under SRC, you have APIs and models. So when you want to actually use this client in, say, if you're working on a project called Foo, it will be using it like use in the Rust terms, use Argo workflow RS colon go to the submodule and APIs, and then it will have under APIs it will have configuration info service API, event service API, and so forth. I would like to um, use a similar structure, but not exactly the same structure. So let's start by defining our own structure. Um, yep. So how do we want to structure our project is really important. I would prefer to, at this point, I prefer to step back and think about it with the structure that I had thought of initially. Yep. So as of now, I prefer to keep it very simple. The main directory or the main APIs, I would like to expose them as under SRC. So all the modules that you expose have to live under SRC. This is SRC being the root, which is exposed as the core. And then you have sub modules. Those are like directories, or they could be module Rust files as well. We will see as we go along, and probably we'll touch a lot of things. So I would prefer to have it structured under API. API will be the home of all the APIs that we want to expose. So it will be like uh, instead of this being uh, APIs colon info service API, I would prefer it to be API colon info, and that's it. We know that it's a service API, so that's the understanding that I'm building upon. And there should be all the errors. I prefer them to be clubbed under one directory. And the other thing that I have in mind is, so see all the models, they were hard. I don't really like the term model. I prefer them to be as types. So let's use types. And then, yeah, this should do. This should do. So as of now, our structure looks like this. Yes, one more thing before I jump into this. I have already gone through a little bit through the source code that is generated. So every service API, or all the APIs or all the API endpoints, they accept something called as configuration. This is the configuration of how you connect with the server, Argo server. So instead of this being under APIs, this which is like right here, it's exposed under the APIs. I'd prefer it to be at the root level. I mean, as in it could be the first class citizen of the API that we are building ultimately. So I would add another one called config. Instead of configuration, I would name it as config. And instead of do a tree, SRC. This is the structure we are starting with. I can ignore or can just do a -d to show you the directories. So these are the directories, or these are the modules that we are going to expose. As of now, these are the 4 ones that I have thought of, but if required, we will expose more. So for any user who will be using Argoflows, they will need to do something like, uh, if I may give you an example, they will do some in their code, in their Rust code, they will actually do something like this: use Argoflows, and then they will be able to call it API, and then say info, or say workflow template. This is going to be another service that we'll be implementing. and then they will be able to use the endpoints of the service. Likewise, they will be able to do something like Argo workflows config to be able to generate configuration to connect with the server. And they will also be able to use types like this types slash say workflow. Oh, probably workflow colon. And every type that is related to a workflow should live inside this submodule workflow. And anything that is related to info should live under info. You could also have a common or shared, but let's see, I prefer them to be in a types directory straight away instead of having a something like shared. I don't like that. I prefer them to be under types. Okay, quite a lot of talking, but that's how it's meant to be. It's me thinking out loud at the same time, trying to explain the thought process, what is going on in my head. So we are on the same page. Okay. All right. So what do we do next? Before we start writing the code, I think it's important to have a local setup with Argo server running, and we should be able to connect with it so that once we start writing the actual code, we should be able to test it as we write it. So I'm going to quit here and maybe step back. Oh, I need to step back. It should be open. Yep. So there is a setup directory that I had already created, which has a document which I will be referring to most likely. But what I want to do is ultimately I will also create a subdirectory here under docs, which will have all the documentation, how to try Argo flows, plus how to set up a local cluster with maybe kind, and then use Argo on that kind cluster. To start with, let's start Docker, just coming up, and I'll set support kubeconfig as kind, and I don't think I have a. So in case you're wondering, or I already have a cluster, I don't. This is coming from the previous kind config. Let's create a cluster. If you notice, I'm not providing any specific flags to creating cluster. I'm just by default going, whatever you feel like comfortable with. Go ahead and just give me a cluster. Now, in the meantime, let me show you how to get started. Under Argo Workflows documentation, you will see a quick start guide and get started here. This shows you how to set up Argo Workflows onto your system. It asks you to install or specify an Argo Workflows version. In our case, it's going to be 3.6.2. So let's start from there. Cluster is still creating. I hope it's not conflicting. Oh, it's already done. So we are already connected to client. Let's do a quick check. Everything is up. Now we export the Argo workflows version, which is 3.6.2. And we're good to go. Next is copy the commands below to apply the quick start manifest. I will not be using the quick start manifest. I'll be using the full manifest, but for now, let's create a namespace called Argo. All right, let's jump into the Argo namespace. KNS is an, I think it's part of the Cube context uh, tool or plugin that you can install or from GitHub. Cube CTX. I think this is the one. Yep. I really love this. Really amazing work. So you can straight away switch into different namespaces and cube contexts. Do try it out. Okay, so we have already created the namespace. I've switched to the namespace, and now what we want to do is apply this. I think I already have it. kubectl apply hyphen f. Is it hyphen n? Hyphen n argo. There you go. So this will go ahead, and instead of using the minimal one, we'll go with the full-fledged installation. Why? Because probably I've not compared both the files, but I want to have a full-fledged working server so that at any point, if I want to tweak anything, I can go ahead and tweak. This will do a lot of boom. Let it complete. In the meantime, let's see what next is what we have to do. You should install an Argo CLI. For us, it's not really required because we are not going to use the Argo CLI. We'll be using our own client, the one that we are building. So not really required. But if you are interested in trying out Argo, yes, definitely go for it. Now this does expose. So you can port forward to the service that is that is created, and then we can navigate to this URL. Oh, interesting. So the URL uses HTTPS and not HTTP. Navigating to server side or navigating to HTTP will result in a server side error. Due to a self-signed certificate, you will receive a TLS error, which you will need to manually approve. And in case you're wondering why this is happening, I would love to talk about it if you want to, if you want me to, because this is a really interesting topic of how TLS verification happens and how does the server verify whether we are a legit uh, client or not. So this does mention that the URL is by default it exposes on HTTPS, and switching to HTTP will cause a server side error. So we should be using HTTPS all the times. Let's keep that in mind. And let's see if the server is up. Yes, it is. Let's do a kube ctl port forward. Ctl port forward -n. We want to create a port forward for the service and namespace Argo. This is the name of the service. This is the host port. This is the container port or the service port. And at the rate or reference is because I want to run it as a background job. There you go. And now we should be able to just visit this URL. And there is your privacy error. Error cert authority invalid because the certificate that has been signed is a self-signed certificate, which is not recognized. And that's why we're getting this error. So the server cannot validate the local authority. We need to tell the server that okay, this is a legit authority, and then it will work. Story for another day. But if you're interested, do let me know. So the server cannot prove that it is localhost. Its a security certificate is not trusted by your computer operating system because so server when you send a request, the server also provides a certificate that this is the certificate and this is the authority that has been uh, this authority has signed the certificate, but our browser comes with a preset of certificate authorities that it recognizes. And as of now, our browser, which is trying to validate that certificate, is unable to do it because the securities is not trusted. The certificate authority, or what I'm doing, not able to read. Uh, the security certificate is not trusted by our computer's operating system. Um, so let's proceed. And on Mac, I think this all the CAs are managed through keychain, as far as I remember last. Yep. Okay. So if you're following along and you're trying things on at your end as well, you should be able to see something like this. Now, what do we do next? We will not be able to just use workflows, workflow templates, or anything on the left because we need to first authenticate it. If it may not be necessary to be logged in to use Argo workflows, it depends on how it is configured. Okay, but as of now, I'd prefer it to be on an authenticated method because we're building a client and it should be able to authenticate with the server. So so either we can use single sign-on, which is not the case as of now. We can log on, which because we are not logged in, it doesn't make sense. If your organization has configured client authentication, get your token following these instructions and paste it in this box. So let's see what instructions. Okay. It is asking us to create a token, but the actual action starts way above. So as a client, you can use bearer tokens to communicate or get authenticated um, with a server. And that's exactly what we're going to do. How to do it? This document lays out those steps. What we need to do is create a role. Now, this role can be named anything. These verbs can be anything as per your use case. And the resource is going to be Argo Workflows. So let's start doing the same. Um, this was me trying to connect with the server earlier, and with that we have our role created. We also need a service account, and now we need to bind those two. Like the role needs to be binded with the service account, so we'll create a role binding. And yeah. So we have the role, the service account, and the role binding, all three. How do we create a secret? kubectl create secret. Yep, here we go. So we are creating a secret with this name, which has this annotation about the service account that we are creating the secret for. And with that, we have a secret created, which has the token. How do we get the token? Argo bearer, and this is kubectl get secret, and then it will ultimately give you hyphen o JSON path with this format. Let me highlight. Using this JSON path format, you can actually extract a particular field from the JSON, and then you can use base64 decode because all the secrets are base64 encoded. And yes, with that, we should have our token. I don't want to print it here, although it's totally fine. It's not about security. I just want, what? I can't edit it. Weird. Okay. Let's Why is it not responding? Okay, here we go. That's the secret created. Now I would like to copy it. How do we copy? We do an echo and then we use pb copy. So it's on our clipboard now. We go here, and these are the exact steps that are mentioned here. So you create a role, then you create a service account, you create a role binding, and you create a secret that will hold your token. Then you get the token, and then you can use the token. For now, I'll use the token to be pasted here. Remove the extra space and login. Here we go. And now we can browse the things. Although we are getting an error, forbidden, because the service account that has been authenticated to access this landscape of Argo workflows is not authorized. It's not authorized. Remember, authorized. It's not authorized to perform any actions on Argo workflow templates. And which service account it is? This is this service account which we are using. So we will need to update our role, the role binding, and the service account accordingly. Basically, the role itself, and then we will have to regenerate the token. But for now, this is good enough for us to get started. In the behind the scenes, I'll figure out a role that is good enough for us to continue forever, and I'll document it in the next video. And I can also talk about it in the next video. That makes sense. All right. So we are now able to connect with the server. We can also use curl https. Yep. Interesting. So what we're doing here is we're telling curl that you should go ahead and try hit this URL path, and essentially this is the host, and this is the API path that we're trying to get. We're trying to get the version of Argo workflows. In the header, we are sending in the authorization and the token itself. The authorizations token is the key, and this is the value, which is the token itself. And we are getting the SSL certificate problem, unable to get local issuer certificate. It's again the TLS handshake issue, not being able to use it. You can actually skip. If I use the flag hyphen K, it should work. There you go. And maybe I should be able to print it. JQ dot, a beautified version of the version details. So we were actually connected to version 3.6.2, which is correct. And this is the last commit from the server. Go version is this, compiler GC. This is the platform. This is my platform, ARM64. And yes, this is how you can connect. Now, if you're wondering what the K is, hyphen K is, it allows you to skip the verification of TLS certificate. So if you look under curl hyphen help, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Is it just me not seeing hyphen K here, or you're also not seeing it? Interesting. Just used something. Okay, help all. Okay, help. We need to help. Use help all. And there should be alphabetical order, I think. No? Crap. Yep. Allow insecure server connections. This is what we are doing. Uh, Was it not skip verification TLS? Or is it the same thing? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting confused between two flags. Is that so? How do you skip verify? Curl skip SSL verification. Yep, it is the curl hyphen insecure does not. Oh, yeah. If you want to disable curl SSL certification, SSL verification by default, because you can do suggested in the Unix stack. How do you ignore? You need to pass hyphen K. Yeah, it's the same thing. For insecure SSL certification. Okay. Right. And have I did try to connect with this in past. I wonder if I have used CA cert with. Okay, that was it. So we now have a server that is functioning and responding. We have the steps to authenticate with the server. We have done the basic structuring of our project, and the next thing will be to start uh, writing code. So I'll prefer to take a pause here, and maybe uh, in the next video we will start, or then in the next step we'll start writing the code. This is not going to be a series where I would frequently post like on a fixed interval or per se, like every 3 days or so. I might end up posting 3 videos in the same day if I'm getting enough time to work on the project. So I might end up posting 3 videos on the very same day, or maybe one day, one video per day. But yes, I promise that every single development that I do in this project will be recorded and shared with you, so that you can learn something maybe, or help me build this project. Let's come together and build this. Again, if you like uh, the idea of building this, do support me by subscribing to the channel, and maybe you can star the GitHub repository that we are working now on it. And yep, one more thing. Probably in the next video itself, we'll be pushing this to crates.io so we can reserve our spot. And by spot, I mean crates.io works in a first come first serve basis. So if someone else gets the idea of publishing it to, like, using the name Argoflows on crates.io before me, the name is gone. I have to come up with a different name and then use it. So I'd recommend, or I prefer to just have version 0.0.1 released onto crates.io so that we have our spot reserved. So yes, stay tuned for the next one, and I'll see you around. Thank you for your time. Bye bye.